Right. Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glorification to the Heavenly Father Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kodash. Double honors to my teachers, the men whom I've learned this truth from, the apostles, the bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom and salutations to the elect. I'm the brother Shaquat from the Great Millstone branch of Montreal, back with another lesson. And this lesson is going to be a brief lesson, going into, matter of fact, it was inspired by Ecclesiastes 9 and verse 11. And it reads, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. Right, and I'm going to grab that in the NLT, change the translation. It says, I have observed something else under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry, and the skillful are not necessarily wealthy. And those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. It is all decided by chance, by being in the right place at the right time. Right, and being at the right place at the right time, or time and chance, is all controlled by the Heavenly Father through his Son, Yahushua. And it's the Lord that controls some scenarios and situations. The Lord can put you in the right situation at the right time. Scriptures speak about man's going or of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? So it is the Lord that directs men's steps. For example, the truth, right? The majority of brothers didn't know, or how should I say this, right? The majority of brothers, they ran into the truth pretty much because it was their time and chance. It was the right time for them to come into the truth, to run into the truth, right? Whether that may be through running across a camp out in the highways and hedges, the Lord directing your path that way, right? Because you might have had other plans. You're probably going out to the grocery store, or probably dropping off a friend, whatever your situation was, but you ended up running across the men of the Lord, and then you decided to stay and hear what they had to say, and guess what? It resonated with your spirit, and you stuck to it. That's an example of a time and chance, the right place at the right time. But that right place and the right time was ordained by the Lord. It was set up by the Lord because he wanted you to be at that moment, at that particular place for a particular reason, and that's to come into the truth in this case, that I'm speaking of. Or it may be that you are just scrolling on YouTube and you come across a video of the elders and apostles, of Great Millstone, and then you just kept watching the videos, but that was your time and chance for, that the Lord deemed right for you to come into the truth, right? So those are just examples of time and chances where the Lord sets up for you to be at a particular place for a particular time, for a particular reason, to fulfill his purpose, right? And that's the case with each and every individual on the earth, man. Nobody controls their goings, right? That's why the scriptures say man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? Right? So, right. Get back to the KJV. I'm going to read this again. Ecclesiastes 9 and verse 11. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, right? So just because you're fast, it doesn't mean you're going to win each and every race, or because you're strong doesn't mean you're going to win each and every battle because of your strength. No, right? The Lord could have it where the situation is different. You might have somebody else that's weak, somebody else that's not as fast win the race for the Lord's purpose, right? In the case of David and Goliath, David's heart was right with the Most High. David was righteous, in the sight of the Most High. David was somebody that the Lord delighted in, and David was young. But guess what? David came up against Goliath, which was a military man, a man that was militant, a man that was skilled in combat. But David wasn't really that skilled in combat, but his heart was right with the Most High. His spirit was right with the Most High. And that's why he overtook and won against Goliath, So Goliath was pretty strong, but guess what? In this case, the Lord pretty much not twisted, but altered the algorithm to where a weak individual overtook a strong individual, because that was David's time and chance to win that battle, So depending on strength and swiftness or carnal skill is not it. The skill that I'm speaking for myself first and foremost that it should be developing is the spiritual, the spirit, building up the spirit and being right with the Most High. Because if you're right with the Most High can alter situations to your advantage, man, because he delights in you, right? It says, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. Right? Time and chance happeneth to everybody. All right? So let's go from there. Matter of fact, let me get this real quick. In the book of Maccabees 3 and verse, start at 17. It says, who when they saw the host coming to meet them, said unto Judas, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great a multitude and so strong, seeing we are already faint with fasting all this day? All right, so they were at a disadvantage, right? Judas and them, they were at a disadvantage. They were fasting that day, they were weak, and they had a smaller army, right? But guess what? Because, at that point in time, they were doing a good thing. They were fighting for a good cause, right? For the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, for the morals of the Most High. The Most High altered their situation and put them at an advantage, even though they were at a disadvantage, right? It says, verse 18, unto whom Judas answered, it is no hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few, and with Yahweh, power of heaven, it is all one to deliver with a great multitude or a small company. For the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of an host, but strength cometh from heaven. That's right. You see? So strength comes from the Most High. And that all depends on whether your heart is right with the Most High or not. It says, verse 20, they come against us in much pride and iniquity to destroy us, and our wives and children, and to spoil us. will we fight for our lives and our laws. Wherefore the Lord himself will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, be not afraid of them, right? You know? So their cause, Judas and them's cause, was a just cause because they were fighting for the right thing, for for the Most High's morals, for the Most High's law. They were fighting for the Most High, and the Lord altered their situation and put them at an advantage, even though they seem to be at a disadvantage. But that can only happen if you're doing the right thing, if you're in the right spirit, So, yeah. So let's go from there to the book of 2 Kings 7 and verse, I'm going to start at 1. Matter of fact, verse 3, get to the point. That's why the Lord puts an emphasis with the scriptures, right? They put a heavy emphasis on being meek, on being humble, being lowly, just having your heart right with the Most High, because that's how the Lord will fight for you. That's how the Lord will help you, and we see the examples with King David and other, of our forefathers in the scriptures, to where their heart was right with the Most High, and the Most High put them in situations where they would flourish, or they would come out alive, because they were right with the Most High, because the Lord favored them, So this is 2 Kings 7 and verse 3. And there were 4 leprous men at the entering in of the gate, and they said one to another, why sit we here until we die? If we say we will enter into the city, the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit still here, we die also. Now therefore come, and let us fall onto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we will live, and if they kill us, we shall but die. And they arose up in the twilight to go on to the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, there was no man there, for the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, lo, the king of Israel had hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us. Right. So these 4 lepers, they were in a situation where every option was bad. Every option seemed like, they were going to die. It didn't seem like it was going to go well for them. Right. But the Lord had it where, one of the options were available to them. And that option was when they went to the Syrian camp, they went and found out that nobody was at the camp, because the men that were at the military camp, the Lord pretty much made it where they thought there was a huge host coming to fight against them. And then they fled the camp and left everything behind, left their food, their everything behind. And those 4 lepers ran across that food in that camp with all those clothing and everything behind, man. A treasure, pretty much. But that's an example, that goes to show that the Lord is in control of things for his purpose and for his reasoning. And that's why it's good to be in the good favor of the Lord. I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, because the times that we're coming into, we're going to need to be in the good favor of the Lord. Because then if we are, these sort of situations are going to happen to, the men of the Lord often, you know. That's why scriptures speak about in wrath, remember mercy. So when the wrath comes, it's gonna be so bad, to where you're gonna want mercy from the Lord, man. You're gonna need mercy. That's all you're gonna need, because certain things are not gonna deliver you. Certain carnal things, like storing up food, or building up combat skills. That's not gonna deliver you, man. Like we just showed, even though no matter how prepared you are, the Lord can alter that situation because you're not right with Him, and put it at the advantage of somebody else, man. Hey, so that's pretty much all I had for this lesson. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glorification once again to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Ruchakudash. Double honors once again to my teachers, the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect.